Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Holderhek channel. This week we're going to go over some pre-raid, pre-phase 6 Naxx frost resistance gear sets for everybody from cloth wearers to plate wearers. You're going to want to get more frost resistance than this because there's really just not that much in the game right now. But thankfully, when phase 6 comes out, you're not only going to get frost resist enchants, you're going to get quests for better frost resistance items, as well as drops in the raid, as well as craftable frost resistance gear that you can build up, throughout the weeks. I feel like this stuff, it's going to give you about 90 frost resistance. You could get a little bit more if you completely sacrifice all DPS stats by wearing like greens that only have frost resistance, but I feel like that's not going to be the way to beat this boss, nor has it ever been the way to beat any boss. I am also going to include in the info below, but not in the video, the overkill gear, like the amount of frost resistance you could potentially get, but that's going to be way more than you'd ever need. I just want it to be there so you can see it. Let's go.
Yeah, I got the terry cloth.
I'm going to do the best job I can not to say frost resistance 100 times during this guide, but I make no promises. This clothy here is a priest, but it doesn't really matter because none of the gear that they're wearing that is like the healing gear has any frost resistance on it, so it doesn't matter. We're going to ignore that stuff. We're just going to talk about the stuff that gives you the resistances, and I'm going to make this as easy as possible, so we're just going to go right down the list. We're starting with the Crown of Caerdaro. This is a quest reward you get for doing the quest, the Lich Ras Frost Whisper. Anybody can do this quest at any time, so you can pick up this helmet. Also, everybody's tier 2 helmet, to the best of my knowledge, has frost resistance on it. So the Transcendence helm, the Mage helm, the Warlock helm, all those, everything has frost resistance on it. So if you don't want to do that quest and you can get away with having 5 less frost resistance, you can just wear your tier 2 helmet. If I'm wrong and like the Warlock helmet doesn't have frost resistance, then my bad. It doesn't really matter. You can still just get the Crown of Caerdaro. Moving on, I just put 5 frost resistance on a random shoulder item, so you can have a backup healing or damage item that you can just throw frost resistance on. The Frostwolf Advisor's Cloak, so get a little bit of AV rep, and there you go, you have 10 more frost resistance. You can get a resistance wand from Stratholme, I believe. Yep, from the Baroness, so that's another easy 10 frost resistance right there. Then all you need at that point is going to be 2 more frost resistance rings. So you could get a green frost resistance ring that you could have picked up literally at any point during this game. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe even phase 6 if you're feeling really lucky, but I would just say try to get one now. And another one that I've actually picked up, this exact one, I've picked this one up from Chain Running Scholomance forever. I'm not going to say that you have this one, maybe you don't. It's pretty easy to get 2 of these, though, because you could just go Ring of Binding and Seal of Ascension if you felt like doing Ubers back in the day. So that's going to give you a little bit less frost resistance, obviously, but then that comes down to our masterful trump card is going to be Leveling Engineering. I think everybody, at some point in this game, should decide to become an engineer, because you know what? It's a great profession. And it allows me to cheat when making these lists, because then you could just go to Gyro Freeze Ice Reflectors for an extra 30 resistance. And I know what you're saying. Hey, I'm a cloth wearer. I'm a tailor. Okay, you're a tailor. That's nice. What's your other profession? Oh, I'm an alchemist for transmutes, and I don't want to give that up. So then I say, that's a conundrum. Well, you're going to have to use your Frostwolf Insignia rank 6. That's going to give you 10 frost resistance. Your other trinket can be literally anything else. It doesn't matter. And then you're going to really have to go for those super high frost resistance rings that we were talking about earlier, like the green ones and the other green ones. And that's going to end up getting you a little bit over 90. So clothy, I say try to figure out, find a way to get some engineering. And if you don't get some engineering and you don't want to spend a couple hundred gold on some rings, you can always sacrifice a little bit of healing power or a little bit of spell damage and pick up some craftable bright cloth pants. These are very easy to create, 17 frost resistance right there. Or the exact same thing with the gloves. You could get 12 frost resistance right there. So it would be a bit of a sacrifice for sure, but it is entirely possible and it is entirely doable. But I say, for everybody, level engineering. Maybe not for clothies. It's fine. You don't have to. Now we're on to the leather daddy here, and it would seem that 60 Upgrades has decided to create some sort of 3D model here, which is actually really cool, and I wish they would have done this months ago, because for all these other guides I've created, I had to kind of create a little 3D model and put it in the middle, but now we have this little thing, so this is fun. This is cool. I'm going to stop playing with it now, but you get an idea of what you're going to look like, so that's kind of cool. Same deal as the clothies. We're just going to go right down the list and talk about the things that have frost resistance, and you can completely ignore the stuff that doesn't if you play a rogue and this isn't the optimal setup for a rogue. Congratulations. It doesn't matter. So we're starting off with the tier 2 helmet here. It has frost resistance on it, easy. Then we have the same thing, the Frostwolf rep cloak. So you have your 5 frost resistance plus the 5 all resistances. I picked up the thick silithid chest guard from AQ and Moam. Obviously it's not like the greatest item in the world, but I have seen it drop a few times. So if you are forward thinking and you have one of them in your bank like I do, very smart. That's an extra 5 frost resistance, and it won't completely tank your DPS stats. If you don't have one of these, then you're going to have to do something a little bit out of the box, like wear this ridiculous polychromatic vision wrap or one of these. This is like a craftable item, so that's fine. And then these cold touch phantom wraps, which are a drop in Stratholme. But it's like whatever. Like all of these things could be worn, but it's fine. We don't need that much frost resistance, thankfully. Going over to the other side here, we have the Frostbite Girdle. You get this from Ras Frost Whisper in Skullomance. I just got one the other day. It's very nice. With the rings, I just went with a Ring of Binding because it seems like these little Fruit Loops drop every single time you kill an Ixia, so I think everybody has one or had one, so you can go into your item restore and get it back if you deleted it for money. I then also got at least one green frost resistance ring. I just, again, feel like everybody should at least have one frost resistance ring. If you don't, then obviously you're going to have to sacrifice one of your very good items for some sort of craftable frost resistance gear, which is highly not ideal, but here we are. And then, like I said in the clothy guide, as a rogue, I really feel like you should have engineering, so having double ice reflectors seems like something that would be a little bit more feasible for our stabby friend here. So that actually puts us right at about 93 frost resistance, and that's a good enough starting point to actually start building a real frost resistance set.
I told you I love the cheese.
Now we're on to our mailmen. This could work for hunters or shaman. It doesn't really matter. You can, once again, completely ignore the stuff on this list that isn't the resistance gear. So we're just going to start right down the top here from the helmet, but before we do that, I do want to say, since this is primarily a shaman channel, we're going to talk about shaman talents for just a tiny moment here. You should definitely pick up Elemental Warding. If you haven't picked up Elemental Warding yet, now is probably a really good time, because 10% less damage from frost effects is actually it's pretty good. It's pretty good. This has been a very, very strong talent since phase 1, and it continues to be a strong talent. I would go 3 of 3 at this point. If you don't want to go 3-5 here, you can figure out a way to get points, but I think 3-5 here is fine to get 3-3 there, and now you're suddenly just a touch more tanky, so I think that's a good compromise. So like I said, starting at the top, we're going to go with the Dragon Eye Coif of Frost Resistance. This is dropped from Gith in Upper Blackrock Spire. Obviously, you need to get the specific frost resistance roll on this thing, so good luck. If you don't want to kill Gith a million times to get this thing, or you haven't done that in the past and you haven't been sitting on this thing for a few phases, you can once again do the Crown of Caerdaro, or just use your Helmet of 10 Storms to get the 10 frost resistance on there. Then I just threw 5 frost resistance on some random DPS shoulders I had to make it a little bit easier. You could do the same for any DPS shoulders that you feel like deserve a 5 resistance enchant. Same deal, we went with the AV cloak, and with these cloaks, guys, I just want to say, there's cloaks that have more resistances on them, but the good thing about the AV cloaks is they also have DPS stats. Obviously not a lot of them, and obviously not good ones, but, you know, they have them, they're there. It's better than, you know, Spirit. So at least it's got that going for it. You could also, you know, use, like, the Saffron Drape. Like, ooh, look at me, I'm using the cape named after you to beat you. Ooh, I'm so meta. You know, it's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Same deal with the Rogue, thick Silithid chest guard. You can use this, or you can use something else. There's also the Dragon Scale breastplate, which we have access to, wearing mail. It also absorbs 600 magical damage, so it'd probably be like, what, like 3 ticks of the aura, depending. And you could even go with a ice mail jerkin if you've, you know, ever collected one of these goofy things. But whatever, we're just going to go with the thick Silithid chest guard because it has DPS stats on it. If you're a healer shaman or an elemental shaman, then obviously go with the Dragon Scale breastplate or something else. Going down the other side now, we're going to have our chromatic gauntlets. That's going to be 5 frost resistance there. If you aren't a melee person, you can just wear either random resistance gloves or whatever gloves that you would like to wear. It's just 5. It doesn't really matter all that much. Your Frostbite girdle, again from Ras Frost Whisper, can be replaced with a myriad of things from AV or a drop from BRD. And then we have our 1 resistance ring, which could literally be, again, anything. A ring from Onyxia, the Seal of Ascension, a random green ring, or what I have, the ring from Scholomance. Either way, having 1 resistance ring in this slot is going to be greatly beneficial, and I even went with the Ice Reflector and the Frostwolf Insignia rank 6 to show that you don't have to craft 2 of them for it to matter, because you'll still have 92, but obviously if you did have 2 of them, you would have a little bit more, and it remains to be seen if this reflect effect would work on the boss, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it probably doesn't, so, you know, either one, it doesn't really matter. And like I said a couple times now, I know this is geared out to be like a melee shaman, but if you're a elemental shaman or resto shaman or a hunter, all these pieces of gear that do not pertain to the resistances can be literally swapped out for anything else, and the melee versions of these frost resistance belts, especially with the AV items, can be just swapped out for the caster versions of said things, so don't feel excluded. Trust me, this stuff will work for you too.
Lexi, stop pretending that main tank is a hard job.
Now we've come to our plate boys. Please, for the love of God, don't at me. I don't know. I just made them a female Tauren and gave them Edge Masters and High Warlord blades. Listen, I don't know, man. This is just... I just tried to make it look as stupid as possible. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do the resistance gear. So we have our tier 2 helm, easy, 10 frost resistance. Same thing, AV cloak. I went with Skull's Cold Embrace because, of course, I did. There's 10 frost resistance on it. I don't really see a better choice, so we went with Skull's Cold Embrace. Moving on over here to the Frostbite Girdle, same thing with our Leather Daddy, same thing with our Mailman. You will get this from Ras Frost Whisper. If you don't want to wear that one, you could just wear the AV belt. It's fine, you just lose 5 frost resistance. Moving down to the rings, I made it as easy as possible. Since you're a warrior, you've done Onyxia 55 trillion times for the Deathbringer that never dropped. So you have a Ring of Binding and a Seal of Ascension, because of course you have a Seal of Ascension. You were probably master looted the Uber's Key and then proceeded to never open up the doors ever. So of course you have this thing. If you don't want to use these things, once again, you can just use a green Ring of Frost Resistance, or you can use your Band of Icy Depths, because you're a warrior, so of course you're also Scarab Lord. It just makes sense. And then you're going to use your double Gyro Freeze Ice Reflectors to then get yourself right at that happy 90 mark. Enjoy! That's going to be it, guys, for the pre-naxx Rammus Frost Resistance Gearing Guide. Obviously, 90 Frost Resistance leaving you at 150 buffed is really not going to be, like, all you'll ever need to clear the raid. I mean, I'm sure people can clear the raid with 150 buffed Frost Resistance, and I'm sure people will, but when I make these resistance guides, I like to err more on the side of caution, because it's a hell of a lot easier to take off resistance gear and put on better gear than it is to kind of create frost resistance gear out of the ether when it doesn't exist. So, you know, over prepare, then you can overperform, and then it doesn't really matter. So just try to get as much as you can. I'd say 90 is the bare minimum you should go for, and just build from that number. Then, you know, in a couple of months when we've cleared Naxx Rammus a million times, and Saffron's a joke, and we're killing the dragon in like 40 seconds, then, you know, maybe we won't need this stuff anymore. But that's not today, and it's not tomorrow either. So, yeah. I do want to say, again, with the lists that I've included here, I changed them a little bit from the initial recording of the video, and I added the world boss drops and various other things that would be like pretty hard to acquire, but I know some people in this game like to go absolutely hardcore and will get every single thing they can possibly get, so I put that in the list below, and you can check that out for yourself. Now it's obligatory self-promotion time. Check me out on Twitch. I stream 4 days a week, but 8 times a week. Figure out that ratio at the Holderhek. Subscribe here for more World of Warcraft video content, and then as we move closer to Burning Crusade, well, you're going to see a lot of Burning Crusade content, and anything else I decide to put on this channel, because I like to confuse you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll see you next time, and until then, bye-bye.